Chapter 12, a stickery situation. Wonder what that's about. Here we go. It was a sunny day, and, as usual, the Robins dropped me off in the rec room, where I met up with Og. I waited here until Katie and Miss Mac took us to the nature center. While the campers and counselors ate the yummy breakfast, Maria and her assistants prepared, the smells. I told Og about seeing the mouse under the floorboards. Boing, 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 he repeated excitedly. I guess he hadn't seen a mouse before. Or had he heard a skittering noise in his cabin, too? Our conversation was interrupted when Katie and Miss Mac came into the room, even though breakfast was still loudly going on in the dining hall. I know I saw a stack of blank notebooks in here the other day, said Miss Mac, looking through some boxes on a shelf. Maybe it was this box. She set the box on the table right next to my cage and began to check what was inside. Oh, these are fun, she said, holding up some papers. What are they? Katie asked. Stickers. Fun, cheery thoughts to encourage kids. Here's one with a frog on it, Miss Mac read it aloud. I'd be happy to be your friend. It looks like you, I squeaked to Og, who cheerily boinged. Maybe we can find a use for these, Miss Mac said. Katie rummaged through another box. Here they are. They'll be perfect for our nature notebooks. Then it came, a shrill blast from the whistle. Katie and Miss Mac quickly got up. Uh-oh, it's Ruth Wright. Better go, Miss Mac said, putting the stickers down on my table. Yes, Katie answered with a giggle, because everyone is wrong except Ruth Wright. The two counselors hurried into the dining hall, carrying the notebooks with them. Mrs. Wright not only had a whistle, she had a first name, Ruth. Maybe she annoyed the humans a little bit, too. I knew what would come next. Morning announcements from Happy Holloway, followed by the camp song and team cheers from each cabin group. I could hear all the happenings in the background, but I was thinking about something else. Fun, cheery thoughts to encourage kids. I knew some kids who needed some encouragement, and now I had a plan. Despite the previous night's bad experience outside of my cage, I pushed on the old lock that doesn't lock, threw open the cage door, and grabbed as many stickers as I could hold in my mouth. Then I raced back to my cage and pulled the door behind me. Phew! However, I had a new problem. Where was I going to hide the stickers? I knew I had just minutes, maybe seconds, just until the counselors came back to get me. Then it dawned on me that I had the perfect place, behind the mirror in my cage where I kept my little notebook. I slid the notebook out of its hiding place and stuffed the stickers inside, then pushed the notebook back in place. At that exact moment, Miss Mac and Katie returned. We'd better put those boxes away before Ruth Wright sees we've done something wrong, Miss Mac said. She reached for the box and caught a glimpse of me out of the corner of her eye. I was still pushing the notebook behind the mirror. Had I been caught in the act? Look at Humphrey, Miss Mac chuckled. He's staring at his good-looking self in the mirror. Katie laughed too. Then the two of them returned the boxes to the shelf. It was the second time that morning that I said, "Whew," but I said it very softly. Katie picked up my cage. Time to go to work, she said cheerily. And don't worry, Humphrey, you look handsome as ever. You too, Og. I think she was just being nice to Og. Once I was settled into the nature center, I saw Brad sitting there. He had a sour expression on his face, as usual, and no one talked to him. He was definitely hard to like, I thought. Yet I'd never met a kid who, deep down, didn't want to be liked. I guess it didn't help that Gail was sitting next to him. She was too busy scribbling a letter to notice he was even there. I suddenly wished that my old teacher, Mrs. Brisbane, was around. She'd know how to get Gail's mind off home. Thinking of Mrs. Brisbane made me feel a little guilty. After all, I'd just stolen a bunch of stickers that most certainly didn't belong to me. I'd hidden the stolen goods in my own cage, and I had no idea how to get them to the person who needed them, even though he was sitting in the same room as I was. I was a thief and a dimwit, but at least I was handsome. I'm just quoting Miss Mac and Katie on that. While I was thinking about my new life of crime, suddenly all of the campers got up and left the room. Where are they going? I asked Og, even though I knew the answer that was coming. Boing, boing. Og meant well, but I wished he could be more helpful. Then I had the good sense to look up at the board and see what Katie had written here. Nature hike today. I guess I wasn't such a dimwit after all. I wasn't sure how long this hike would take, so there was no time to waste. Og, there's something I have to do, but I don't have time to explain it to you now, I squeaked to my friend. Wish me luck. Boing, boing, boing. He twanged in a way that sounded more like a warning than good luck wish. But there was no turning back. This time, unlike the night before, I figured out my route before I left my cage. It was actually an easy course to get to my goal, Brad's new nature notebook, which was on the floor next to his chair. I reached behind my mirror and pulled out my notebook. I didn't have a lot of time to study the stickers, so I grabbed the frog sticker and carefully held it between my teeth. I jiggled the lock that doesn't lock, slid down the table leg, and scurried across the floor, straight to Brad's notebook. I carefully removed the sticker from my mouth. The teeth marks were hardly noticeable and slipped it under the cover. That's when I made an interesting discovery. Stuck to the bottom of the frog sticker was another sticker with a big smiley face. It read, "Smile! Somebody likes you." There was no time to waste, so I pushed that sticker under the cover of Gail's notebook, which was beneath her chair. Then I dashed back to the table for the more difficult part of my journey. At Jake the Snake's end of the table was a basket with a tall, stalky plant growing out of it. It took strength to climb up the basket, but the woven straw was easy for my paws to grab onto. When I got to the top of the basket, it took even more strength to leap onto the plant. I climbed up the stem, just as if I were climbing up the tree branch in my cage. When I was level with the table, I held my breath and took a giant leap. I hadn't even thought about how slippery that table might be, but I immediately slid right into the side of Jake's tank. I bounced off and was slightly stunned until I saw Jake. I'd never gotten such a close look at a snake before, and I hope I never will again. He twisted and thrashed about, sticking his tongue out at me. "Sorry," I squeaked. Heart pounding, I scurried past him, back to my cage, where I made sure the door was tightly closed. I checked it 3 times. Og splashed around wildly in his water. It took me a while to catch my breath so I could explain what my mission had been. I'd barely gotten my story out when the hikers returned to the nature center. They were chattering happily, except for Brad and Gal. Katie instructed the campers to open their notebooks and write a list of everything they'd observed on their hike. Don't worry about the writing, just jot things down as you remember them. Brad rolled his eyes, but he reached for his notebook and opened it up. Gal also grabbed her notebook, her pen poised to write, but the pen stayed midair as she saw the smiley face sticker in her notebook. "Watch carefully, Og," I squeaked as I watched her every move. Gal studied the sticker carefully. She even turned it over to see if there was anything written on the back. Then Brad saw his sticker. He picked it up and read it. He puzzled over it for a second, then he began looking around the room. "That's it, Og. He's trying to figure out who sent it." I was unspeakably happy. Brad looked all around. Gail looked all around. At one point, they actually looked at each other, but they were embarrassed and quickly looked away. Soon the session was over and all the kids left their notebooks with Katie. Gail put her sticker in her pocket. She wasn't smiling, but she did look interested in knowing who liked her. Brad put his sticker in his pocket. He was still watching the other campers closely. I was pretty sure he wondered who'd be happy to be his friend. Maybe I was a thief and even a dimwit, but at least I'd help a couple of humans, or so I hoped. Note to self, usually it's not a good idea to be sneaky, but sometimes it is. So what do you think? Do you think it might work? Right now they don't know who put the stickers there, so I wonder if they'll end up finding out, and I wonder if they're going to make some new friends. We'll find out.